But Grace, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking.
Grace is about to have a birthday.
When is your birthday?
The 14th.
Oh, it's coming up. Well,
I'm
fun.
going to be in Kentucky judging at nationals.
Are you
so-
going with Mountain Brook to national? That's awesome. Great.
I did end up getting my own hotel room.
There you
Boom.
go.
That's awesome. I
Now
hope you're
just
getting.
charge a bunch of stuff to the hotel room.
I do that.
I was
do that.
thinking
No, Gala,
about
you
that.
can't say that. We're being recorded.
Oh, that's a
You
good
think-
point.
you
That's a
think-
good
no,
point.
cancel
Like
the recording.
unrecord it, delete the video, and
Delete
then
it,
start over.
over.
Lyndon taught me to be careful when you're being recorded.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Everything you say. So, well, all right. Awesome people. First, just at a meta level, this is really impressive. It's June 8th. Our first tournament won't be until like September. So to have this many good people here, it's just objectively impressive. I can think of only a handful of squads that probably are doing stuff like this with this many good kids. And I mean that like literally a handful of squads in the nation. So not only is it just nice to see, but it's impressive. It's infectious on me. It makes me want to work harder, seeing what a good group of kids y'all are. I know everyone is going to have a lot of different expectations and goals next year. I'm really excited about next year. I think it'll probably be the most fun year we've had in a long time. We have a great group of kids. We'll be traveling some. We'll have some digital debates, which is honestly, frankly, I think a healthy medium. Because y'all realize that the NDT, those who travel, that travel debate is a different beast. And I think that we actually do better sometimes in digital debate world for a few reasons, but it seems like we'll be able to do both, a good little permutation. And I'm excited. I sent a file. It's about as bare bones as you can get. By bare bones, I don't mean incomplete, but for it being June 8th, I'm like, okay with it. What I want us to start doing is conceptualizing, I think, what the core arguments are going to be, at least on the nature subsection of the topic. I'm fairly confident that nature is going to be included in the topic. I hope artificial intelligence is included in the topic. What I would like to be able for us to do is at least have an understanding of the nature part of the topic, go over some sort of big questions, y'all ask questions, and ideally we are able to execute some speeches, maybe not tonight, but by sometime next week. And if y'all can already be giving speeches on the topic by the second week in June, that's crazy. And this file can do that. I mean, like, it's not highlighted yet. I think that there needs to be some 2AC front lines to some things, which I'll get to, but the nature, the arguments, that was my dog. The arguments are there. And so I'm excited about that. Did everyone receive the email? Or did anyone not receive the email is what I want to have. So let me close this door. Oh, dogs. You love them and you hate them. I'm a cat person. The topic wording seems to be vest. So I've started out the gate, put vest. This is also in the Dropbox. If anyone's not on the Dropbox, I'd like to resolve that by probably the end of today. I don't think it's the end of the deal, end of the world if you aren't, but I've already made the 2023 folder. I think we already have some files getting in there. And the thing that I really want to work on this year is, I think, delegating files and having everybody sort of producing evidence. And so make sure everyone's on the Dropbox and that it's organized and stuff is a good way to do that. The plan text is pretty basic. The United States should vest legal rights upon nature. I use the word upon nature instead of to nature. I think it's more legally precise, but the topic wording will likely say to. There's a card that's in the topic committee rotation. I can email it out afterwards that essentially says, by vesting legal rights upon something, it grants it legal personhood. This is going to be maybe a debate I don't know. I don't want to make any capital T truth statements until after the season opener, to be blunt. I like just arguing both sides, but it seems like the topic wording is not going to say personhood, but the evidence says that by vesting legal rights, it creates legal personhood. So even though personhood might not be the topic wording, I think it's a distinction without a difference for legal purposes. I still think that negs may have to read a topicality argument or a link evidence just to clarify that, but I don't think AFs are going to debate that. I think AFs are not going to put personhood in the plan text, maybe go for perm to the counter plan against a pick out of personhood, but for substantive debates, I don't really think it's going to happen. So this is what I think a basic 1AC is going to look like out the gate. It wouldn't surprise me if this is like Liberty, GMU, Iowa policy. You know, you're kind of like standard basic teams. It wouldn't surprise me if that can't vest legal rights. Also, if you want to ask a question, just like unmute yourself. This is a conversation more than anything. Y'all are all smart kids. You should all ask questions. I think asking questions is the mark of intelligence. And so can't vest legal rights go beyond the scope of just personhood? I think it can, TJ. I think that is why T extra topicality will be necessitated. I think that this year more than ever, we're going to need a T file to sort of clarify the scope of what affirmatives do. I don't think affirmatives are going to access offense out beyond personhood. I think that that'll just blatantly be topical. I think vest legal rights will be the ceiling. I don't think it'll be the floor. I don't think teams are going to try and do those jokes that we said. I think that like I said, I wouldn't make capital T truth statements on this until after the season opener, but I'm confident that we could win a T extra. I would actually like encourage an AF to try and do that stupid stuff. I would actually like an AF to be like, we go beyond personhood. I'd be like, okay, you know, extra topicality is really going to do that. I think you're legally correct. I think sadly the debate community operates on legal fantasy. And I don't think that they are going to weaponize offense in an extra topical nature, even though I think you are capital T truth correct. And if you were in like a constitutional law classroom, the professor would say that you were right.
Before we move on,
yeah,
will you just explain a little bit more the word offense that you're using? I understand most of what you're saying, but do you mind just like clarifying that in less debate speech for me?
Yeah. So there are two types of arguments in debate: offensive and defensive. Defensive arguments are like impact defense. Offensive arguments are like advantages and disadvantages. So when I say an AF won't glean offense, I mean they won't write an advantage. Like the AF's not going to stand up and be like, advantage, we go beyond personhood. I don't think AFs are going to do that. I think AFs are actually going to try and shy away from full personhood as much as possible. So I don't expect—
Because it's complicated? Or like,
No,
like why not? Why would they not?
Because, and now the topic paper is explicit about this. I don't know if I agree entirely with it, but the topic paper seems to believe that the pick out of personhood and going up to personhood, but not doing total personhood is like somehow devastating. The topic paper is very explicit about this. I mean, if y'all have not gone and read the topic paper, it should be your alpha and omega until the topic wording comes out. They're pretty, I mean, I'm going to literally try and pull up a quote from it to give you a sense of what at least this is. I'm about to put it in chat. This is it's called the personhood pick optional. So this is literally taken verbatim from personhood pick optional. Our proposed resolution does not allow this counterplan to compete. That's why they're trying to not use the word personhood. I don't want to get into a debate about this right now. I'm not the topic committee. I have my own opinions in the debate community. Other people think other things. We believe it is quite overpowered. Next could simply confer the AF's specified rights and obligations without conferring the status. So what I mean by that, and you got to understand, this was in the topic paper. This is what the people that wrote the topic think, and this is what the community voted on. So clearly, some people think this, that the personhood pick is really good. And so what I mean is that based off the topic paper, which kind of informs debate opinions and sets cultural norms, which for better or worse, the debate community can sometimes engage in groupthink. If they think something is right, they'll vote against you on it in the next, like, it's so stupid. Like, we're gonna, the finals, the topicality debates and out rounds of the first tournament are really going to sort of instruct, for better or worse, the direction of the community. So under the presumption that the topic paper has stated that they think this personhood pick is just so devastating, I do not expect ASK to go beyond that. I expect ASK to go as close to as possible. Personhood, I don't expect ASK to go beyond that. I could be wrong, but I'm just saying that's literally taken from the topic paper. So what I mean by ASK gaining offense by going beyond personhood, which is what TJ asked, can't vest legal rights go beyond personhood? I'm saying that because they think that the personhood pick is so devastating, if that's the bar, I think ASK are going to go up to it. I don't think they're going to read an advantage that they go beyond personhood.
Because
Good
it wouldn't
question.
go over well with the judges, because judges would generally think, oh, you're doing something that has been discouraged in the topic paper.
Not discouraged, but not strategic. Just that it's strategically not the best move, because apparently, and like I said, I disagree with the topic paper here. I think personhood is defensible, but I'm just making a general, and like I said, it's June. I'm a social butterfly. I'm going to talk to as many debate coaches as possible. I encourage y'all to talk to as many debate coaches and debaters as possible to see the hive mind of what the debate community thinks. But it seems that other people, like I've talked to Brian Klarman, Emory, and stuff, I've G-chatted other coaches. They seem to also believe that this personhood pick is good. And so that's kind of how debate works. If people think a certain thing, judges are going to feel comfortable voting on that thing. Because if, you know, the topic paper comes out and says the personhood pick is overpowered, and then you go for the personhood pick, a judge may think that you did the right thing because the topic, and like, that's why debate isn't the legal world to a degree. Debate is a lot more cultural normativity about what arguments are strategic or not. So assuming that the debate community voted on a topic paper that said something is overpowered, you can assume, at least at the season opener, which is where we're at right now. I'm focused on the season opener. I actually think Stanford Strategic historically has done very well at season openers. Galloway and I talked about this. Season openers are a lot more about skill. Season openers are a lot about summer preparation and skill work. It's where you can kind of beat easier sort of B teams from programs like Kansas and Georgetown, who maybe are just reading blocks. And I think it's more late season where kind of coaches can sort of start overwhelming us with new arguments and stuff. But I'm concerned right now just about the scope of the season opener. And I don't expect teams to go beyond personhood to sort of answer TJ's question and stuff. Does that kind of make sense, Grace?
You've illuminated directions that I didn't know I needed to be illuminated in, and I still have a couple of questions on like mechanics, but those definitely can wait. And probably I'll just absorb more information and things will make more sense.
Yeah, at the end of this, y'all ask away. I mean, I have a juvenile love of debate. I think I may even get mocked in the debate community for it. I have a juvenile love of debate. So any questions? Frankly, now is literally the best time of the year to ask me these sort of questions, because the last time you want to do it is when I'm like prepping one of our teams in out rounds, because that's when I become like an asshole and I kind of become me. But right now, I have all the time in the world to answer whatever question. And y'all need to understand this iterative process helps me. Something I really respected about Wake Debate when I was there is the notion that all debaters could sort of help in an iterative process of unpacking and understanding a topic. Something I don't like is when coaches or debaters put on blinders and they think they know everything and that they're God and that they know everything, and it's like June, right? So a good question gives me insight into how debaters may think, other people may think. Y'all are all very smart. Y'all may be smarter than me, right? Like, y'all are really smart kids. I trust y'all. And so now is the perfect time to sort of ask questions like that and stuff. TJ, I keep seeing you want to.
Yeah, just on the pick, wouldn't the EV that says that like personhood, like granting legal rights in any capacity is like technically the same as granting legal personhood, wouldn't that kill any competition the pick might get?
That's going to be the debate. That is what this is what Brian is so concerned about this pick, is that is literally what everyone is saying, but that's just a defensive perm argument. That's not an offensive response to the pick. The second, so yes, that is going to be the debate. You are going to have that debate at GS or at North season opener, is perm do the counter plan against a personhood pick. You are teams are going to, I bet Northwestern does it. I bet Kentucky does it. They're going to stand up, read T personhood and a personhood pick. I will bet y'all a second mortgage, like straight up. Someone's going to stand T personhood, the personhood pick. Like, I mean, come on. Like, so perm do the counter plan is definitely going to be your first level response to that, but perms are defense. Perms aren't offense. Judge it. So it's kind of going to be hard to win that debate. The second thing is, do you see how it says confer specified rights without status? I am not comfortable enough yet on capital T legal truth nor cultural normativity about determining yes, no on that. I was actually going to go and seek out Supreme Court cases about that exact issue. And I think that specified rights is slightly distinct from personhood status. For instance, I can grant a tree right. I can grant a tree or a forest. So like, okay, national parks, right? You can sign it, just be like, hey, that's property of the government. You can't touch anything in there. And so you've now established a right for those trees to exist because now they're a national park, but they don't have legal standing, which is what this personhood concept is. Those trees can't sue. They don't have like corporation personhood and stuff. So I think when they say specified rights and obligations, I think what they're saying is affirmatives can say, hey, those trees should be protected and those trees ought to have the right to not be harvested or mowed down. But that is distinct from those trees have legal standing to now sue similar to a corporation. And that is a true legal distinction. Where those lines get drawn, TJ, I'm not entirely sure. And I'll be honest with y'all, like I've only done about a week and a half's amount of research on this. This is a messy topic. This is not something I really just went over in law school. This is not, I mean, I practiced the environmental law when I was in the legal world, worked at the EPA, worked at the Southern Environmental Law Center. This is all still kind of gobbledygook. So like, I'll be blunt and say, I don't want to say anything capital T truth at June, the first week of June, but I do think that there is some distinction between a specified right and then granting legal personhood. But where you draw those lines, I think that'll be a big debate. I'll perm to the counter plan and stuff. All right, so there are two basic advantages for this affirmative. First is just your environment advantage. Climate change, environmental collapse is coming now, granting legal, and these cards are good. I mean, like, you look at these cards, you're a judge. You're like, these look like good cards, right? 2022. This topic is more prescient than I initially thought. This topic is more prescient than and I guess that's true of every topic ever. There's always stuff being written about everything ever already. But I was shocked that almost every card I was able to put together in this 1AC is like pretty recent. So it's a thing. The thing that I want to really harp on with y'all is that other countries have done this. So that's kind of the first sort of topic knowledge that I want to weave into this conversation. That's this first Roxburgh card. New Zealand's done it. Ecuador's done it. Bolivia's done it. India's done it, right? A lot of states have started this process of granting. Switzerland has done it, of granting legal rights. India, for instance, has granted legal rights to non-humans. Switzerland did it for a certain river. Ecuador and Bolivia did it as constitutional referendums. So this is a thing. Other states have done that. And I think for me and for judges, comparative test cases are very powerful. Like, how successful was that in Ecuador? How successful was that in Bolivia? And Australia has done it too. So this is not some esoteric pie in the sky concept. Like, countries have done this, right? Countries have done this. Some say to success, other people disagree. So there's a debate to be there, but this is not some pie in the sky thing. Another part of this card says developments to grant personhood to national entities place nature on the same legal level as other legal persons like corporations. Okay, so just give a little bit of a background. Corporations are considered legal persons in American law. What that means is that they have standing, you can sue on their behalf, you know, like you can't just disband a corporation, they have rights to. Citizens United was about how corporations have freedom of speech. And so by banning corporations from giving political donations, it infringed upon their First Amendment rights. So to understand what legal personhood is, think about how we treat corporations, right? How we treat this legal fiction of a corporation as a legal person. That's what these affirmatives would do for things like nature or for artificial intelligence. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of artificial intelligence. I've talked to a few coaches right now about this. Everyone wants AI in the topic. No one knows how to put it in the topic. It's really messy. The AI debate, I think that's literally, I think Grace posted a video about it today in the slot. There's a lot of confusion about what they want the topic to be about AI, which is why I actually think we will cut an AI affirmative. I actually, spoiler alert, don't really think the nature affirmatives are going to be the best. I have my reasons for that. I think the AI affirmatives are going to be a little bit more strategic and nuanced, but no one has sort of squared that circle of what that scope of the section would look like. So I'll stop anything from doing anything. So what this would essentially look like is like you could now, in the world of the affirmative, start suing corporations for polluting or climate change because now trees have standing and rivers have standing and stuff, or people are polluting runoff. It's really hard to just sue corporations for stuff like that in the status quo, but saying, hey, you are disrupting the rights of nature, i.e. the right to regenerate their natural capacity, to thrive, to exist. That's the radical legal change. Like I said, other countries have done this. Yeah,
Sorry.
no, you're fine.
Who does the suing and where does the money go? Like, who sues on, I guess,
So-
who would sue on nature's behalf and where would that money go?
So that's the second card, the Chalet card, which is great. Great question. And this isn't about money. This would not be about necessary money. And I think that a lot of the cards talk about this, that like, okay, so like civil rights lawsuits, were those about money, Grace? No, they were like injunctions. You were violating people's constitutional rights, you know, and you need to stop doing that. Or you're violating the right to vote. You're violating, you know, certain right, like gay marriage. Okay, Obergefell, was that about money? No, that was about like the right to have gay marriage, right? Abortion debates, are that about money? No, these are more like rights, which means that it's more like injunction. So a lot of these people wouldn't really be seeking financial restitution. They would just be seeking more injunctions and to stop corporations or to stop farmers or whomever from doing things. So does that kind of answer your money question? The second thing though is the Chalet card, which is the second one. This tag is long, but it gives you this tag from the Chalet card, the second one of the 1AC, is straight quotes from the card. It's a little redundant, but it says establishing legal personhood for nature would recognize that an ecosystem has the right to exist and regenerate without human caused disruption and gain the right to a legal representation by a guardian, much like a charitable trust designates a trustee. So if you established a trust, you have to, for that trust, establish a trustee who will act on their behalf and in their best interest. Now, the devil's in the details here. Those two ends are going to start thinking like, who are these trustees? Who do they work for? How do they get put into place? Great legal questions. Like that, the devil is going to be in the detail. That's why I frankly don't think that legal personhood is the perfect mechanism for resolving these sort of issues. But the concept is that once nature becomes protected, I would now have standing to sue on nature's behalf to protect it, much like a trustee could sue to protect a charitable trust, as in their financial interest and stuff, who act on their behalf and in their best. But you could sue for nature. You could sue on behalf of nature, right? Just like, for instance,
I can't see
women-
Grace Blackwell suing on behalf of nature, but I can definitely see Grace Scott suing on behalf of nature. She would sue for the trees. Grace Blackwell would be suing for the corporation that says we need to chop that tree down to make some more money. So that would be what would happen. I did want to make one quick comment about the Chile card. That's referencing the 30 by 30 initiative to protect 30% of the land and water with by 2030. My point behind that is that I did research on that for the marine protected areas. There's a wealth of literature on that question and whether or not the 30 by 30 initiative will protect the environment. There are a lot of people that say it's a really good thing to do to protect the environment. So that unlocks a big literature base, which I think would be good for this affirmative.
This is, like I said, the most bare bones version of 1AC. I think that there's international modeling cards. I think that there is an international modeling warrant. I think there's probably a leadership advantage about United States being a leader on these things and how that could change global rights. I think there's a lot, like Galloway said, of how these things would sort of unfold, because this would be earth shattering. Like this would be crazy, or the opposite of earth shattering, but this would be crazy if the United States came out and did this. But this Chalet card is good about explaining what it is, led by activists who would sue and stuff. And so now that nature has standing, you could sue on behalf of them if they're getting destroyed. And so, for instance, like the bar used to not permit non-white people and females from being members of the bar. The bar actually was originally started by kind of white men to not let non-white men be attorneys. And so, but the bar got sued on behalf of women and, non-white people. But obviously the people that did the suing were white men, because, non-white men couldn't sue. So like you can sue on behalf of people to gain rights and stuff. So what it would look like is once you have those rights, people would sue on behalf of them. The most like people that would do this would be nonprofits and indigenous people. That's kind of the most obvious answer. Nonprofit, environmental nonprofits, and indigenous communities would be the most obvious people of who would be trustees in this instance to start. It could get weirder. Maybe some competitive corporations. Like I haven't unpacked this, but there could be some competitive corporations who maybe, so for instance, maybe company X has a more sustainable method of farming. Company X could sue company Y that has a less sustainable method of farming to say that company Y should be injuncted because they have a less sustainable method of farming and stuff. So it would literally open the floodgates of litigation. A lot of people would be able to sue and stuff, but most likely indigenous people and nonprofits.
Question before we move on.
Legally, is this a thing that could ever happen? Could somebody wait, let me that is a question at the beginning, and then I will explain the scenario. So I'm BP, and I think this is really bad because somebody's going to sue me for polluting waterways, and I'm gonna tell somebody from my company or use my influence to have somebody sue BP, not on BP's behalf, but secretly on BP's behalf, and they will miserably fail at they will throw the trial so that somehow they will have somebody sue themselves on their behalf so that they can manipulate an outcome that is in their favor, and then it sets the precedent of this is how you deal with BP in these waterways. Like, Is that plausible or
So is this some sort of like grand conspiracy by BP to like win a lawsuit? Okay.
but
One, BP does what BP wants in the status quo.
mhm.
Two, that process of litigation would be insanely expensive for BP. So there would be
Okay.
no financial incentive for BP to engage in that conspiracy.
I will
Mhm.
say, to Grace Scott's point, I think circumvention by lower courts is a huge argument on this topic. If you thought lower courts were going to circumvent antitrust last year, which is an argument that we frequently made, I have a feeling the lower courts in Alabama, if you said that nature has the same rights as human people, they will find any way they can to distinguish around that to rule in BP's favor. So while BP might not engage in a conspiracy, I think they're going to send their team of attorneys to say, this law does not apply to us. Here's the exceptions. Here's the distinguishing characteristics, things like that. And my gut instinct is to say that is a large burden for the affirmative to overcome.
And I have a card in the case neg and the case frontline and the one in C that's like pretty specific about this as to why that is exactly probably what would happen. And we'll get there. This TAM 20 card, I like it because it sort of says that, there is a lot of uncertainty in how this would happen, but that's not necessarily bad. That just means it would be at its incipient phase, and that even the threat of lawsuit might deter companies from environmental degradation. I've boxed that sentence. I've increased the font size. It's pretty powerful. Even the threat of a lawsuit may start deterring companies from environmental degradation. So that's like a signaling argument, right? What a great argument. Just the signal that now nature has rights would cause companies like BP and stuff to be a lot more gun shy and reticent. Just the threat of litigation and lawsuit would sort of trigger precautionary principle. And any confusion is just because, but like this card says, Bangladesh now joins 28 other countries with existing or pending legislation giving legal rights to nature, including New Zealand, Colombia's Amazon. So like, if you want to really start getting into how this stuff breaks down, you should start looking at how it's operated in other countries. And that's most likely how it would be done in the United States. But I like that TAM card because Galloway's right, and we'll get there on the neg that says that these companies would win, but the AF is just going to say, well, the threat would deter. And then there's just a climate change card. This card is crazy. It's like, it's a pretty good card. It's a pretty good card. It says it all. And then it says, if we can act boldly. I'm not going to go over climate change impact. Everyone knows what a climate change impact. Second advantage, indigenous rights. God, this is just going to be an AF. Just so many. There are going to be a lot of K debates, a lot of critical discussions. I'm frankly down with that because we're just going to outcard them. Bring it, roll tide. We're going to be strapped. I'm down to have those debates because I think we're going to do a really good job preparing in the summer. But I think indigeneity is going to be a big thing that by recognizing nature has rights, it will really protect indigenous populations and their religious beliefs as well. Because the way the American economy is currently structured, even though indigenous people have rights, if nature doesn't, people say that that's a Western concept, and that bridging Western and indigenous legal systems through a rights of nature approach is one tool for encouraging a kin-centric view of the world. I mean, that's a quote from the card. So it would respect indigenous rights. This brown card says that treaties would be enforceable now. So a lot of these treaties that Native American individuals and indigenous people had aren't being respected because nature doesn't have rights. And so treaties would mean nothing if there's no wild rice left to harvest, right? If we can protect the water, then protecting everything else. This Dristy card says it's reverse causal. When the rights of indigenous people are protected and their rights to land and resources, their culture thrives and nature thrives. And then I just have a structural violence and a moral obligation impact for indigeneity, right? I think that a lot of apps are going to discuss this indigenous thing, indigeneity. And it really is true that this is how indigenous and Native American individuals like conceptualize nature is like a living, breathing subject that ought to have legal rights similar to humans. that is more in line with non-Western conceptions of personhood, in contrast to like Kantian, Roman, even like only humans are anthropocentrism. I don't know if all y'all know that, but like anthropocentrism, the K, that like human constructed worlds and stuff, also going to be big on this topic. Like I could see a really big anthro-indigenous AF that's like criticizes human conceptions of objects and says that indigenous individuals legal framework should be preferred. So that's why I made it the second advantage. And then I just threw in a moral obligation impact.
There's a really good K of that says that saying that indigenous people are closer to the land is itself problematic and can be used to justify actions against indigenous people, because we create this noble savage scenario where indigenous people are different and fundamentally different than other people. And that can be problematic in and of itself to say that. And so I think that's an argument that I'll want to work on, the noble savage critique.
I think, yes. I think that a lot of AFs that discuss indigeneity's relationships in nature will link to the noble savage K. I agree. And the God's honest truth about most K debates on these subjects is like judges aren't really looking for capital T truth claims. I think y'all are starting to realize that. They just want you to have an offensive response, right? So instead of just being like, no impact to indigenous rights, you want to have offense and be like, no, turn, the way that you've discussed indigeneity is itself problematic. And at least what that does is that creates sort of clash, which is what judges really want. And then that's just like, okay, then who does the better debating? Judges aren't going to really feel, you might have one or two judges that does that, you know, no, and it's not perfect, but most judges just want to say, what's your response? And we're like, here's our offensive response. Turn, that conception of indigeneity is problematic. I have two cards here. These are really good law review articles. I was going to cut them in responses to some of these articles that I have on the con. Just by the point, I'll have these done by when we give speeches, ideally next week. Or I'll probably finish up this file, polish it a little bit more by the weekend, because I didn't assume anyone was going to be giving speeches tonight. But these are two really good articles that kind of just do a deeper dive into other countries' legal structures. These two cards are really, they go deep in the weeds about other countries and how those courts have ruled and how that would apply to America. And like I said, I think great solvency arguments by affirmatives can say, hey, look, 28 other countries have done this and it's worked. Like that's really, judges eat that stuff up. Judges don't want you to be like, hey, trust us. This is a good idea. You want to be like, hey, 28 other countries have done this and it's been successful. And like a diverse group of countries, like not just, you know, one certain type of country, like a diverse 28 different, a diverse group of countries. And so these cards are kind of like deep on those questions. And so I was going to cut those. Y'all are going to debate this AF. There's going to be an AF. Deans are going to read this, right? This is a little bit more of a policy kind of middle of the road app, but like I could see Navy reading this. Like I could see some teams standing up and just being like, we want to help nature, climate change, and indigenous people, right? And so that's kind of the app that I want y'all to at least digest by the first week of June before topic wording comes out, and then we may get trickier, and then we'll have to give an entire different section lecture on like AI stuff, which is going to be a totally different conversation and stuff. But do y'all, essentially we would be giving the Lorax an attorney, right? Now the Lorax has an attorney and you can sue on behalf of the Lorax. And have y'all seen the Disney Lorax movie? Yeah. And do you remember the scene where he's like, I'm going to get rich and hire all those attorneys, and he's playing the guitar and there's all that money, and he's like, I'm going to get the best attorneys. Like it's literally like a quote. Like, yeah, this would be the litigious response, is that now the Lorax could get you could sue for the Lorax and stuff. The Lorax would have rights. So the con, the next arguments here are going to be good. I'll be honest. It was really, I'll get to the disad in a second. It's aggressive. The disad's aggressive. It's just like Lee Quinn roll tide. We'll get to the disad. But there isn't a lot of people that say that this would intrinsically necessarily be like bad, just that it might not be the best thing ever, might not actually solve. I was surprised. And if you go and read the topic paper, it is embarrassingly bad on substantive solvency often, anything related to the topic. I mean, it's literally like disads. They're like cord clog, which is like a generic disad. That's not a topic. It's not a topic argument. You can read cord clog against you cause more lawsuits. That's bad. Like y'all debated cord clog last year. That's not a topic disad. They really, the closest thing they had was like a slippery slope disad, but like, I don't think slippery slope disads are, I don't think that just because we grant nature legal standing means that all of a sudden like fetuses have legal standing. I just don't think that that is how American legal jurisprudence operates. And I don't think that the slippery slope disad, I think there are going to be slippery slope disads. We will have answers to them. We will have people say that slippery slopes don't exist. And I think we are right. Slippery slope, I mean, it's literally a logical fallacy. Like you can Google logical fallacies and like, you can go like logical fallacy, slippery slope. And it's like, boom, a slippery slope fallacy. It's literally like, literally a textbook definition of a logical fallacy. So, I mean, I'm not concerned by the logical fallacy disad. Let me just say that. Yes, the Lorax calf. I like to talk to my attorney friends that I did debate with in high school and stuff. And one said someone should read like a performance Lorax AF or someone like dresses like the Lorax. And I'm just like, oh my God, y'all are ridiculous. Y'all are not helpful. So the neg, I'll start with the counter plan. I think counter plans are going to be a ton in this topic. I think counter plans last year were good, but frankly, there was like strong neg ground last year. That's like, you are bad for the economy. I mean, like some of the best teams in the nation were just going for the econ disad at the NDT. And like Harvard went for it and I was in the back. Northwestern went for it when I was in the back. And that was at the NDT. They were just like, you hurt the economy. Antitrust is bad. There weren't that many cards about that. I was shocked. I was like, there aren't that many people that are saying this is bad. So I think you want to do a multiplicity of responses when we're on the neg to these AFs. First is just a counter plan. It's like, we should do a carbon tax and increase funding for alternative energy. Bang, all right? Like, don't even mess with legal personhood. Just like develop renewable energy and do a carbon tax and solve for the environment that way. This is just one card I cut. You know, TJ has an advantage counter plan file. It's probably way better than this one card I cut. But you know, I was just doing research and I stumbled upon it. So I cut cards. I like cutting cards. What can I say? And it's just like, that means finance and lots of it. So we should just drop guap on doing renewable energy and start a carbon tax, you know, to help the environment. I think these sort of counter plans are going to be very common. I, in fact, think that more so than last year, I think just a good advantage counter plan is going to be the moves. Just like, hey, there are a ton of other, maybe better ways to solve for the environment. So this disad, this is just an aggressive disad. Okay, this is just an aggressive disad. Do y'all know who the #1 polluter is in the United States of America?
The military?
Yeah. Do you know who is legally exempt from every environmental statute in America?
I'm gonna guess the military.
You're exactly right. Do you want to know why?
Because USA #1.
Exactly right, TJ. This Smith card is like, against environmental regulations, the U.S. military is a potential resulting impediment on the military's training ability. There's an endemic view within the military that it should be exempt from environmental regulations to increase its agility and preparedness even during peacetime. These cards are crazy. I mean, there's this link card in the 2NC wall. You know, he can imagine, you know, I mean, these cards are just like, who would get sued? Okay. The DoD. Okay, for instance, let's give an example. Sonar testing, horrible for the whales. Navy's got to do it. You got to do it. You got to kill the whales, right? There's this card, this potential Navy link. There was, I mean, you have, because I was talking to Galloway about this. I was like, what is an offense? I need offense. We need a disad. And you know, I don't want to stand up and read global warming good, because then you'd be Michigan PR, and who wants to be the Michigan PR? You know, so like, no, L. So, I mean, there are like a lot of debates about, and so there was this famous Winter versus NRDC case. I mean, this card is like the case of Winter versus NRDC, demonstrates the tension between military preparedness and existing environmental law. I mean, the God's honest truth is that if you give whales rights, there goes the Navy. If you give birds rights, there goes the Air Force. I mean, like they would be. So I know Praise is looking at me like I'm a fascist, and I know Praise that I forefronted this by saying this is the wall, and it's true. I mean, and it begs the question. So asks, I would ask an AF in the world of the affirmative. Can I now sue the Department of Defense for polluting the environment? You got two answers. You can either say no, but like what AF would ever solve? Where the DoD is the largest polluter in the United States of America. How can you possibly solve for indigenous rights and the environment if you can't sue the, or you're like, yes, now we can start suing the Department of Defense, right? For like anything and everything that bases. Do you know how environmentally polluted but bases are? They're horrible. I mean, just seriously.
They burn all their trash and all their sewage goes in a burn pile.
The number one polluter in the world is the United States Department of Defense and stuff. And they are legally exempt from every, so the art and this, and I hate to say it, but it's true. If nature had rights, the DoD would, frankly, I don't even know what the DoD would do. I don't know how it play out. And I think that there's a process link that says, even if the AF of the end results of the affirmative, the DoD could somehow function, that would take years of litigation to resolve those ambiguities, right? That process of litigation, that iterative legal testing, it wouldn't be clear out the gate what, yes, the DoD can and can't do. So now out the gate, the DoD has to stop everything that hurts the environment because now nature has rights. I mean, and I mean, I hate to say it, but like, I stumbled upon these and then I was like, no, wait, yes, this is the disad. Like, there it is. Like, you know, we gotta kill the whales. We gotta test to kill the whales. And I say this as someone that worked for the EPA and the Southern Environmental Law Center, right? Like, this is the neg. And what's sad is this is not in the topic paper. None of this was in the topic paper. I was kind of shocked. Like, the topic paper was like the court clogged disad. But no, this is like really what would kind of throw a real monkey wrench into military readiness while during the Ukraine war. Yeah, okay. You know, so
could we even make the arg that like it goes beyond just like as almost a separate disad, just that like requiring US businesses to all of a sudden like halt all this stuff that could be hurting nature would like put us at like a massive economic disadvantage?
yeah, the econ disad.
Yeah, just read something similar to like the China, the Kharkov.
Econ disad is going to be a thing. Now, here's the God's honest truth, though. I saw a lot of really good econ answers. I actually saw a lot of cards that say that this would help the economy, that sort of green development, renewable sustainability. There are a lot of cards that say that like sustainability, we need to adapt to climate change. Climate change is going to be worse for the environment. Oil companies are not really that good for the economy. Like there's a lot of offense both ways on the econ disad, which is why I kind of shied away from it. Yes, everyone's going to stand up and be like the econ versus the environment debate. That's like 101 and stuff. But there's a lot of offense both ways on that. I'm going to cut that. I'm going to put this in the file if we just want to kind of beef this up. But what I would go for is that we would kill the whales disad. Like I would be like, we gotta protect American military readiness because, or what it does is like, or they say, no, we wouldn't sue the DoD. And then you just go for presumption. And then you're like, what? Like you do nothing. That's the biggest polluter and stuff. So I kind of like the catch-22 of the military readiness disad. And like econ disads are cool and all, but like the direction of uniqueness is not great. Probably about to enter a recession. Frankly, we might need one because of inflation. I don't know. It's complicated. But econ disads are obviously going to be a thing. Yes. There's offense both sides. And I think the direction of uniqueness is better for the AF about the economy is not doing that great right now. But good old military disad. And I don't know. I think you could pop a team on this. It wouldn't surprise me if you I was like, we should help the environment. And you're like, what about the Department of Defense? And I was like, what? Like I could see some teams being like, what? And you're like, okay. So I like to think of things a little out of the box. And so, yeah, That's why I went with this disad. And frankly, I think this disad forces more clash on more sensitive subjects, which, you know, that's the point of the debate. You want to debate both sides and stuff. But it's true. Literally every statute, like the Endangered Species Act, the DoD is exempted from all of them. They're like national security. And so giving nature rights would definitely be an impediment to the largest polluter, the Department of Defense. And then you just read a Jiminy impacts to that. And now we'll go to the case arguments here. Unless someone has any questions for me. I mean, look, I mean, like, I'm gonna debate. I'm gonna PGS them. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
I
mean,
just
you can
love the idea of being like all this sentimental, nature has rights, we love nature, and then just standing up and being like, F nature, US hegemony.
Putin votes
I say
AF.
number one.
Period.
You know who would love the AF? Vladimir Putin. Right. Vladimir Putin would love the affirmative. He'd be like, check. You know, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm crazy. But that's what I would say in these debates. And then you get access to like wars worse for the environment, right? Like, you know, all this. I mean, it's crazy, but like, I mean, you know, you want to have some fun in debate, right? You kind of.
All I have to say is I think Lee is 100% right. In a bygone era against the Kyoto Protocol to solve global warming, I saw a team go one-off military pick. You would destroy the military. We need to exempt the military from this. And it was a rapid 3-0 for the negative.
I mean, I'm wrong. Oh no, go Lyndon. Sorry.
That's the question I had was, I just don't know because I just don't know. But is the military exempt from like international environmental statutes, or is just like everything exempt from?
The United States does not grant jurisdiction to any international statute, period, bar none. It goes the Constitution, and then the Constitution, and then the Constitution. We could not care less about. Now, okay, Lyndon, did the United Nations veto the Iraq invasion? Yes, right? Did we invade Iraq? Yes. Like, we really could, like, no. And so, like, a good example is the United Nations Law of the Sea. Okay, the United States purports to follow UNCLOS because UNCLOS protects things like freedom of navigation lanes and stuff. So we purport to, we were like, this is a good idea. But some people tried to sue our Navy when they infringed on their sovereignty under UNCLOS. And then the Navy was like, no, we actually don't really follow it. They're like, we say we do, we like it in theory, but might makes right. And so no, the United States never follows international law. It does not trump anything. If, you know, like, yeah. I mean, if you're not with us, you're against us, right? Like, international law means nothing. And frankly, I don't think it should, because I'm not the biggest, international law clearly doesn't work. I mean, look at Ukraine, right? It was like, what was it, like 281 to like 5 on Russia should pull out of Ukraine. Russia's still in Ukraine, right? Like, international, I'm a realist. What I mean by that is, if y'all take political science courses, I'm literally a realist. Like, nations act in their self-interest. I'm not a big liberalist fan. Bush's invasion of Iraq was actually based on liberalism. Bush's invasion of Iraq was based on liberalism. It was based on we should spread democracy and all that pie in the sky stuff. No, I'm a realist. Nations act in their self-interest. Now, you know, the Iraq war was a disaster. It was a stupid waste of resources. It killed a bunch of innocent people. It was really ridiculous. The top military experts all agreed Iraq did not have WMDs. Bush lied. It's true. Afghanistan, a little bit different of a debate. Iraq war was a disaster. But no, the United States does not care at all about it. And frankly, I don't think we should, because Vladimir Putin clearly doesn't. You know, Adolf Hitler clearly didn't. I mean, they were bad actors that want to kill us. And so, you know, we kind of got to, it's not the nicest world. And I think Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine has really put on the forefront that the international world still operates in a real politique sense. And the United States military can be a force for good in the right context. And it has given me a glimmer of, you know, nationalism to see us just like giving M270s to Ukraine and just like how much we're actually helping Ukrainians. with their military success. We don't have healthcare, but we're helping kill some Russians. And so, it's a debate. But no, to answer your question, legally, international law has no binding on American jurisdiction. Yeah, and Galloway's right. The Kyoto Protocol, one of the big reasons why we did not sign on to it was because our military pollutes a lot of carbon. And they were like, you can't pollute a lot of carbon. And he's like, but what about our jets? Like, have you seen Top Gun? Like, come on, So I think the military disad is true. I don't think there's any offense the Af can garner against it, which is why I didn't make an econ disad. I think there are actually a lot of I found crazy good cards that were like, this would actually be good for the environment. It would be good for sustainability. Global warming's bad for the economy. But the military disad, it's just like kind of true. You would really mess up the DOD, like real bad. They literally legally exempt from every environmental statute ever. So, and that's how I think strategically, and I don't know, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. Depends on, your view of me and your view of nature and stuff. But when I think strategically, I think what does the other side have a worse chance of gaining offense against my position? And I don't think that the Af cannot stand up and be like, hey, we help the nature and indigenous rights and we help America project power. Those cards don't exist, right? And so, you just kind of got to do it. And what's weird is like, now more than ever, I think judges are like, okay on pulling the trigger on this stuff. I don't know why, but it seems like now more than ever, debate has really become a game. I think digital debate has really neutered people to this, but I think even K judges are even more down to be like, you did the better debating, Cap is good, the wall and stuff. So it's not near as personalized as it was when I debated, and it might be a result of digital debate. I don't really know. Galloway may agree, you may disagree, I don't really know, but it seems like now more than ever, if you can stand up and defend the wall, judges are going to be like, yeah, you defended the wall and stuff. Case front lines, these cards are really good. These cards are really good. They essentially, this Levang, the ABC 19 card is better. This ABC 19 card just kind of says it. It's like, this would not really do anything. So like this McGrath quote, I'll just start with this ABC card, and it's about Australia, which gave nature rights. So this is what I mean about like doing deep dives into test case and studies of what other countries have done to sort of ascertain how this would play out in the United States. Australia gave these rivers rights, and like they still lost the lawsuits. And the card is just like, the card's pretty blunt. It's like the biggest impediments to the legal defense of nature in Australia is the lack of resources and enforcement of the laws we have. Simply writing that nature has rights into an act doesn't change the power dynamic. The power dynamic at the moment is weighted by who has the money. There's a massive case I'm involved with now, and the mining company literally has $1 billion. I'm representing the landowners, and they've got nothing. NGOs and individuals are cowed by the prospect of having cost orders brought against them, where they would be obligated to pay the cost of the defendants if you lose the case. If you lose a case, you have to pay for the other side's legal fees. I don't know if y'all know that. It kind of makes sense, right? If you drop frivolous lawsuits and you lose, I should never have had to pay for an attorney in the first place because you frivolously sued me. But what that means is that these NGOs and these individuals try suing ExxonMobil. Go for it. Kirkland and Ellis, White & Case, top law firms in the world in DC, Saudi Aramco. Even if you have and like a lot of other cards say this too, we have rights, but like people still lose lawsuits because of money. And so the notion that just giving nature the rights, especially in America's legal system, would just solve it really kind of wouldn't, because now you can sue for nature, but you're still suing, like the most powerful law firms and corporations in the world. We have billions of dollars to throw at the problem and stuff, and that takes years to resolve, and you might lose. And if you lose, you have to pay Kirkland and Ellis's $300, $500 an hour attorney fees, and that's like millions of. You could bankrupt NGOs if they lose. This is just reality that we operate in. And so that ABC 19 card is great. The Levang card 19 also says it too. MIT success. Not everyone agrees. Environmentalists worry that even if the law stands, guardians may not have the resources to defend it, especially when faced with corporations that have much more money to dedicate to a lawsuit. So that's kind of the God's honest truth, is that's why, to kind of go full circle, I really don't think that giving rights to nature would be the panacea that people think it does. That's why I actually think most nature apps are going to be more critical. I think most nature apps are going to be more about indigeneity. I don't think that actually giving these rights to companies is really going to help them win lawsuits and stuff in the United States. And that's why I think a counter plan that's just like, we should do a carbon tax, we should throw trillions of dollars to renewable energy, we should do all this green tech development and stuff, would actually solve better than some of these affirmatives. And then this indigenous rights card, this is a crazy card. I actually can cut K cards, contrary to popular belief. This Greer 19 card is great. This Greer 19 card is great. It's really, I mean, you can look at it. It's like, it's wrong heads protect nature with human rights style. Tempting as it is, this move must be resisted. Human rights have proven to be exclusionary even in their own species. It's a Trojan horse for neo-imperialism, right? Certain dangers lurk. It literally says like, that could be weaponized by big corporations to say that they're actually helping the environment. We need to move beyond Stone. Stone is who wrote the "Should Trees Have Standing?" article. That's Stone. So anytime you see Stone, that's the 1972 famous "Should Trees Have Rights" lawsuit. That the topic paper reference that I said y'all should read. So they're like, it's important to move beyond. We need to get rid of the notion that rights bearers. So like this Greer card is kind of like, no, by giving nature legal personhood, that's actually just an extension of sort of neo-imperialism. It's an extension of sort of how the state can marginalize individuals and sort of allow actually corporations to weaponize it against them and stuff. So there are cards on both sides on this issue. And then, like I said, Galloway's right. You could also have like a Noble Savage K in here that's like also, and that's kind of like a second offensive card. But this Greer 19 card is a good insight into what K teams, or we would say against indigenous rights affirmatives that are, if we didn't want to like also go for the, you know, the hedge good dissent of just like, no, this concept of human rights and legal personhood is Western, it is imperialist. And just because you gave nature rights doesn't solve for imperialism and Western, you know, concepts of law. It would reinforce them, it would ensconce them, and we need to actually move away from legal personhood and stuff. So that's all I've cut so far. The cards are good. It's a far from perfect file. Frankly, I'm not really that happy of where I'm at right now. To give you all some insight into where I'm at now, the reason why I'm really reticent to do a deep dive onto this file is because I really want to kind of see the wording of the topic and the areas of the topic before I waste a lot of time on these issues in terms of card cutting. But I do think that you're going to have to debate both sides. Who knows? For our novices here, the novice AF may be a nature AF. All right, the novice AF could be a nature AF. It wouldn't shock me, actually. Galloway, what are your thoughts on that? I bet the novice packet AF would probably be a nature AF.
I think it would be a good novice packet AF. I think it would give novices a good understanding of the topic. And I think we could be ahead of the game, either if we turned in a nature AF for the novice development curriculum, or getting ahead on arguing for those things, I think would be good. If we do that, I think we should hold back the military readiness disad and just do like a spillover disad and a court clog disad or something like that, because I think the military readiness disad is very strong. But I think that's a very good possibility. And we could turn that in as the novice AF like we did with Facebook last year. So we could get our novices some practice well before the season starts. But I think, first of all, I want to thank Lee for putting this together, because I think this is a lot of good work in the summer. I know he took time away from what he's doing in order to do that. And secondly, the fact that we have a basis for beginning some speeches and debates, as Lee mentioned, on June the 8th is fantastic, because by the time September 15th rolls around for our first tournament, I think we'll be in great shape. So this is good that not only Lee has done this, but that we have so much support from you all, willing to get on Zoom, willing to work hard this summer. I'm anticipating a great year, and I'm really looking forward to working with all of you.
yeah. Echo everything Galloway said. I'm like I said, frankly, I at this point in the summer, I would normally have a little bit more to say about the AFs and stuff, but I'm kind of leaning against nature. But y'all are going to have debates on it. Frankly, the only way for y'all to not sound stupid in these first couple season opener debates is by having as many debates at this point in the summer as possible. Imagine you feel comfortable against the nature app and it's July. Right? Like you're like, I've already had 3 or 4 nature debates and it's July, right? I can lecture all day. Galloway and I can lecture all day, but I mean, we have like a ton of debate knowledge, legal knowledge, like, so it's one thing for me to sit here and make this stuff sound simple, but for y'all in cross-ex to answer questions is just a totally different beast. And so giving speeches on this stuff, feeling comfortable with these concepts. And what this process does is you have a debate on it, and then something clicks in your mind and you're like, eureka moment, I thought of this argument. And that is where I want to be by like August, so that by September, we have one of the best apps in the nation. Because that's my goal. Goal is always to be the best in the nation, no exceptions. Just because we might not be, doesn't mean that's not my goal and my expectation. I want to come out the gate with one of the best apps in the nation, which is why I'm comfortable having an affirmative like this the first week of June and stuff. And so by the time, the season over, imagine, if our novices are our first debate, the app stands up, they're like, it's a nature app. And you've already given more speeches on the app than they have on their own affirmative. Like, that's how you debate's a game. And, you say words pretty and you read cards and stuff. But I want to give the major takeaways from this lecture are other countries have done this, and y'all should look at those other countries. I think that's big. I think when I started this topic, I thought that this was a little bit more esoteric and out of the blue than it actually is. Like I said, 28 other countries are doing this. They have done it. I think that this gives you an overview of the type of arguments you're going to encounter. And it gets you familiar with terms of arts and concepts. And it's just sort of, like I said, where I want to be right now going forward. And kudos to all y'all for showing up. I mean, this isn't even everybody on our team, which is crazy to me, to have everyone here and us doing this in June. So it motivates me to work hard. I was talking with Joey earlier today. Summer is when debaters do research. I was not the best about it last year. This time summer, it had some things going on, but I really want to double down on summer research this time. I want to be in August having cut, me personally, about 1,000 cards. I mean, what? I've already cut like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I've already cut 20 cards and it's June. Like, I want to be late August having cut 1,000 cards on this topic. Like, that's kind of where I would get. I'm not saying y'all have to do that. This is my job. I get paid to do this, but at a certain level of debate, that's what makes me feel like I could literally debate anybody. I wouldn't care if you're Northwestern's A team or your Iowa C team. I'd be like, I cut more cards than you. Sorry. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care where you went to high school or college. Like, look at all this evidence, and that's how you got to act if you want to be the best in anything you do. So that's great. Any outstanding questions? Like I said, also, like, I'm not even doing a debate camp besides Sanford this year. So if any of y'all ever want to schedule any sort of practice speeches, theory lectures, framework conversations, even basic terminology stuff, now is the time to do it, because here's the God's honest truth. Summer's going to end in the blink of an eye, as y'all are probably already experiencing. You're like, where is my summer going? And then it's going to be September, and then I'm going to be teaching classes, and then it's going to be the season opener, and I'm going to be like, oh my God, there are 1,000 case next we need to do. Oh my God, I'm stressed and I'm grading and stuff. And there are a lot of y'all this year. I mean, we're going to have like 14 active debaters, which puts us at just between Galloway and I. So that's a lot of responsibility for individual debaters. So now is literally when I have a juvenile love for this activity. Now is when I would love to schedule like an hour or 2 hour long lecture and stuff, instead of trying to do it while also trying to cut a case neg to Northwestern, while also trying to cut a case neg to Kentucky or Georgia or Wake Forest and stuff like that. I would much rather have any sort of lecture now than when we could be doing research that is appropriate in September and to sort of stay ahead of the curve. You want to stay ahead of the curve. So yeah, but this is great. I loved it. Any of y'all have any outstanding questions, any thoughts, any comments, any ideas on this random Wednesday?
Do you know when like we're supposed to vote and like when the official wording is supposed to come out?
I can answer that question, which is that the wording always comes out the third Friday of July. That's the CETA constitutional mandate. When exactly we will vote on the topics, I think it is about 2 weeks before that time period. So we'll want to get people together. I posted on the group me the wordings of the topic, and I think I posted something that indicates where all the wordings are online so we can look at them. But some fundamental things we want to think about are, do we want AI in the topic? Do we want the United States federal government to be in the topic, or do we want the United States to be in the topic? Do we want future generations to be in the topic? So while the wordings are rather complicated and somewhat esoteric, I do think some fundamental questions are asked about those wordings, and I think we want to provide our answers to those questions. It's less about the words in the topic and more what do we want included.
And Galloway, what's the famous story about Jamie Davenport?
Oh, it's been a while since I've said this. 1 year, one debater at Sanford decided the national topic. And you would ask, well, how is that possible? Okay, so the year that we debated healthcare, Jamie Davenport was the only Sanford debater who voted, and she voted for healthcare over wealth concentration. Well, it turned out that the vote between healthcare and wealth concentration was decided by one school. So one individual from one school decided the national topic. Now, I'm not going to say it's very likely that that's going to happen, but I will point out that it can happen, and your individual vote might be the difference. So if you want to be involved in the topic process, make sure you send in your vote to me, okay?
Yeah. We decided a topic. So our vote matters and stuff. And I think it would be fun once the slate comes out, if we wanted to have a separate Zoom conversation about what the slatings were and just have people. I have my opinions, but the God's honest truth is I would prefer to debate a topic my debaters would like to debate more than what I think I would prefer, right? Like if all y'all are like, we would prefer to debate this topic, but I hate that topic. Well, I would still vote for that topic because you got to let your racehorses race. I love the healthcare topic. It was just a big case debate. I loved it. It was great. I didn't debate under it. I didn't coach under it. I judged under it though. And I thought, here's why. I mean, I thought AFs were good. They were like, we should do single payer. And then the negs were like single payer bad. And it was a debate. It was great. And I mean, it really tested whether you were good at debating because everyone was strapped. There wasn't like oh, what's our case neg to this crazy app? No, it was like, yes, no, single payer. And so people got good at those debates. And there's evidence on both sides. So people that didn't like debate or scared of debate were probably like, healthcare was too small. But if you really just kind of want to out debate somebody on an equal playing field, I thought the healthcare topic was great for that. And y'all haven't really debated a small topic. Last year's topic was way too big, in my opinion. We didn't have like offensive case answers to affirmatives. We had a kind of cheating counter plan that was great, but it wasn't like a case neg.
All right. I want to start speeches on this stuff next week. I think Lee and I will do a little more work to get this stuff polished up by next week. So, but novices, prepare to meet next week. Grace Scott and Abby Montgomery, I want to start working with you all as well on giving speeches, and we'll be good to go. But for tonight, thank you for showing up, and we look forward to a great season. And of course, it's great to both see you all and to work with you. And so we'll see you next week, okay?